Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Yuni Yuniar, and today I would like to present my research paper. The title is Secondary Students Engagement in the Tongue Twister Assisted Speaking Classroom. Chapter 1, Introductions. It contains about background of the research question, the purpose of the research, the scope of the research, and the significance of the research. Background of the research. Speaking is a very important significance of communication in every human life. With language, we can express our feelings, thoughts, wishes, and desires. In line with Munawar, state that speaking is the human ability to produce sounds or voice orally and to share or express feelings and thought with others as a means of communication in life using or without any particular gadgets to fulfill human needs and emotions. Every communication process requires that the speaker and listener understand each other. Otherwise, it will be misunderstood. Meanwhile, discussing language, English is still the dominant foreign language as an international language. As stated by Richard 2006 says that for many second languages or foreign language learners, the ability of the speaking skill is in English is priority. Almost of the previous research is used classroom action research. But in this research, the author used qualitative research as a method of the research and descriptive research. Case study as a research design. Besides that, the author is conducted the research in different way in engaging the students' speaking skill in common words, not vocabulary or other. In this research, the author wants to know whether tongue twister can assist the students' engagement in English speaking. Based on the explanation, it can be inferred that there is methodological gap where previous research tends to conduct study about tongue twister to improve students' speaking skill. This person study focuses on finding students' engagement in tongue twister assisted speaking classroom. B. Research question. How does tongue twister engage students in speaking classroom? The purpose of the research. The purpose of the research is to explore about the students' engagements in tongue twister assisted speaking classroom and to explore about what problems that faced by the students while learning English speaking in tongue twister assisted. The scope of this research is conducted by the 8th grade at Madrasah Sanawiyah Al Hasan at Karawang in the academic year 2020 or 2000/2021. This research only focused on the students' engagement in tongue twister assisted speaking classroom. The significance of the research. The significance of this research is expected to give contributions to the teaching and learning English context and beneficial for the other students, the English teacher, the author, and the school. For the student, expected to be valuable in involving them to be actively engaged in speaking classroom, it also is expected to motivate the student to practice English in a fun way and enjoyable also. For the English teacher, the using tongue twisters is expected to be valuable for the English teacher in enriching their teaching technique, especially the technique for teaching the English speaking. For the author, in conducting this research, the author gets some benefits such as experience and a lot of knowledge that very useful on how to teach speaking through tongue twister. For the school especially for Madrasah Sanawiyah Al Hasan, can use tongue twister as a new technique in the school for the teaching and learning English speaking. Chapter 2, Literature Review. First is speaking. According to Douglas 2001, speaking is using of language in ordinary voice, uttering words, knowing and being able to use a language, expressing oneself in words, making a speech. Besides that, according to Laudes, speaking is an activity to explain someone in a certain situation or activity to report something. Meanwhile, according to Tarigan 1919, speaking is a way to communicate that affect our daily lives. The way a person communicates can affect the response of the listener. Regarding to Harris 1974, there are some components of speaking skill. The components are comprehension, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciations, and fluency. Mastering speaking. According to Turnberry 2005, speaking is so much a part of daily life that we take it for granted. The average person produces tens of thousands of words a day, although some people like auctioneers and politicians may produce even more than that. In line with Robert 1997, and many pupils, the prime goal of learning a foreign language is to be able to speak it. Teaching should therefore help them to achieve that goal to the best of their ability. Teaching speaking. Teaching is a key term that almost never escapes discussion about educational because of the relationship between them. Cohen 2009 state that teaching defined as helping others learn to do particular things every day in which many people engage regularly. The interaction will occur between the students and teacher while teaching and learning process. There are several roles of the teachers in learning English speaking that following below. The first is assisting the students to hear, guiding the students to make sounds, providing feedback to the students, arranging activities. A tongue twister technique. The definitions of tongue twister. Tongue twister, which means is repetitions of words, is a series of words that have a similar pronunciations. Bear 2014 states that in tongue twisters are short, memorable lines that are hard in pronouncing, especially rapidly due to the repetition of sounds or alliterations, or like a variety of consonant sounds. Besides that, Gonzalez 2009 states that tongue twisters are used to repeat as many times as possible, as quickly as possible without mispronunciations. According to Garment 2010, says the tongue twister is a sequence of words that is difficult to pronounce quickly and correctly. Difficulties while pronouncing tongue twister is because tongue twisters has patterns that similar in one sentences. Makanapa 2012 said that the tongue twister is phrases or sentences which are difficult to pronounce because similar sound occur, although the students felt difficult when practicing tongue twister, but it makes the students enjoy when they are practiced. From the definition above, the author concludes that tongue twister technique is one of the funny activity that difficult to pronounce because it has similar pattern in one sentence, and it is very useful to facilitate the student in teaching and learning process in the English speaking classroom. Types of tongue twister. Tongue twister sentence type. It contains a group of words with the similar sound in one sentence itself. For example, like the fat cat sat on the man's black hat. My mother's brothers is my uncle and put chalk on the teacher's chair. The second one is tongue twister story type. It contains a group of sentences that consists of repetition of words with the same sound, and it can be short or long stories. For example, like pizza paper, pick a pack of pick peppers, and like that. C. Student engagement in tongue twister assisted. Student engagement is generally understood to be the primary mechanism that enables motivational processes to contribute to learning and development. It is by Furrer, C. and Skinner. Students who are emotionally engaged with what will be studied can learn more effective because they will be amused, stimulated, and challenged to learn. Students who are engaged show sustained behavioral involvement in learning activities accompanied by positive emotional tone. Reeve 2005 said that the intensity of behavior, the quality of emotional delivery, and the activeness of students so that they can actively understand everything related to the learning. Likewise, with the definition of student engagement conveyed by Skinner, the student engagement is part of action and effort students persistence in matters related to school assignments, and being emotionally capable in learning activities. There are the previous research that's related to the tongue twister in assisted in speaking classroom. In conducting this research, the author is inspired from the previous research. There are various references from the author. Almost of the previous research is just question action research as the research design. But in this research, the author used qualitative research as a method of the research and descriptive study as a research design. According to the previous research about, the author is conducting the research in different way in engaging the student's speaking skill in common words, not vocabulary or rather. In this research, the author wants to know whether tongue twister can assist the student engagement in English speaking classroom. Chapter 3, Research Methodology. The research design. In order to explore the answer to this question, the author used qualitative approach. The author implied descriptive case study, which is used as a tool to study something specific in a complex phenomenon. Descriptive case study assists students to portray on how students engage in tongue twister assisted speaking classroom. The site and participant of this research. The first is the place and time of the research. This research is conducted at the Madrasah Sanawiyah Al Hasan academic year 2020/2021. The school is located in the Dewan Barat Village, Cikampek District, Karawang City. The participant of this research is five participants from A class of 8th grade. The students from Madrasah Sanawiyah Al Hasan. This decision refers to obtain the information from the English teacher that teaches in their class. The data collection technique is the author used observation, documentation, and interview. The instruments of the research is using interview guideline, tongue twister script, and electronic device. Data analysis. In analyzing data, the author adopted thematic analysis by Brown and Clark. According to Brown and Clark 2003, analyzing qualitative data to answer broad or narrow research questions about people's experience, use, and perception and representation of a given phenomenon. First, the author observed all of the students in a class of 8th grade Madrasah Sanawiyah Al Hasan. But the author just only focused on the 5 students who were being the main participant in this research. The author conducted observations in 2 weeks and 2 meetings. Following the duration of a meeting, the author observed approximately 80 minutes in each observation. In this research, the author chose which aspect of the data that appeared in the interview transcription and observation field notes should be emphasized, minimized, or set aside completely for the purpose of the research. Secondly, after conducting interview, the author obtained data documentation from the script of tongue twister that will be given to the student in the research finding. The author underlined the important aspect of lemon speaking while the students read the tongue twister script. Selecting the data that has been collected that support the problem that being discussed, then the author examined all the relevant data sources for descriptions which will be used for. Secondly, after conducted interview, the author in this research, the author obtained data documentation from the script of tongue twister that will be given to the students. Thirdly, the author conducted interview with the participants of the research. The interview that used in this research is semi-structured interview. The question of interview were asked to get the information for this research. In this case, the author interviews 5 participants who were main participants in this research that had been observed before. The question of interview consists of 7 questions according to the title of the research. The author displayed the data in order to facilitate for the data interpretation. It is displayed in isolated interview transcription related to the research title. Fourthly, the author drew meaning from the data in a research finding. Furthermore, the data have to be checked for the trueness and and conformability. In the process of checking the data, the author adopted triangulation strategy by mouse and human. Triangulating is a tactic for verifying or confirming finding by using multiple sources such as interview, responses, and observational data as many times as necessary to obtain the valid findings of this research. Chapter 5, Funding and Discussion. The first finding is the engagement of the student's cognitive. The second finding is the engagement of the student behavioral. And the third finding is the engagement of student emotional. So in this research, the author found that there are three findings in this research. The first finding is the student's cognitive engagement in tongue twister technique. According to the information from this research, the author found that the participants of the student from from Madrasah Sanawiyah Al Hasan experienced many obstacles or difficulties in learning to speak English using tongue twister technique in engaging their speaking ability. It can trace clearly from interview transcription. For the researcher asked that apa saja kesulitan yang kalian hadapi ketika belajar bahasa Inggris, terutama dalam belajar bahasa Inggris speaking, katakan alasannya. From the participant A to participant E, it can be concluded that almost of the student has difficulties and has their own problems in the teaching and learning process using tongue twister assisted in speaking classroom. Based on the isolated interview transcription above, the students felt learning English was very difficult because English as foreign language was very difficult for them to speak. Besides that, speaking activities were the aspect that bothered the participant most about in the English. The students also spoke their fear of making mistakes and being ridiculed. The achievement was the student could speak a few words in English fluently, even though this was the first time they were doing it. It can trace clearly from the interview transcription. The transcription interview above means that although the students have the difficulties and the problems in speaking the English word in the tongue twister script, the students kept practicing to speak them, and it makes the student able to speak in English. The student behavioral. The second finding is the student behavioral engagement in tongue twister technique. The students more felt confident to speak up, especially to speak in English. The students try another thing in learning to speak English so that they unconsciously have the courage to fight their fear of speaking English in front of many people. Based on the table 41, it shows students might feel enjoy in the tongue twister assisted speaking classroom. The students who are involved in teaching and learning English speaking using tongue twister, having some exposures engaging the English speaking skill, the students required to be confident to speak up the tongue twister script in front of the English speaking classroom. The next finding is the students' emotional engagement in tongue twister technique. The students' emotional in this research is related to positive or negative reactions of students towards learning English speaking in the classroom. For example, like in this transcription of interview, do you like English speaking? If yes, why? If no, why? Jadi di sini, so in this research, the author asked the student, apakah kalian menyukai bahasa Inggris? Dan jika iya, mengapa? Jika tidak, mengapa? All of the participants almost answered that they like to study English. In this research of interview, the author found that almost of the students would like to learn English, although learning English was very difficult for them. Based on the isolated interview transcription, it is clearly understood that almost of the students are interested in teaching and learning English using the tongue twister technique. Based on the isolated interview transcription, tongue twister technique could assist the students to learn English, especially in English speaking properly. Discussion. The discussion suggested several general pattern findings that cover essential findings that represented in general pattern finding that become indicators of students experiencing difficulties in learning to speak English using the tongue twister technique. The first is the student's cognitive engagement in tongue twister technique. In teaching and learning English speaking using tongue twister technique, the student get an engagement in students' cognitive ability to speak English. This means that the use of tongue twister technique in learning English speaking can assist the students in engaging their English speaking ability. However, there are many difficulties in the process of learning English speaking using the tongue twister technique. Students will feel they have the ability and complete any kinds of text effectively by predicts effort. But the students' willingness to make maximum effort in each study, able to express themselves according to what is needed, even more than what is needed to be able to understand or master their abilities in English speaking. The second one is the students' behavioral engagement in tongue twister technique. Based on the findings, the factors that contribute to the student confidence could be classified as follows. The first is speaking in front of the classroom. Most of the participants responded that they are willing to come to the front of the class. Although the others said that they are panicked when the teacher suddenly asks them a question beside the participants who have more self-esteem and more academic achievement than low academic achievement students. The students feel enjoy when they were learning and speaking in tongue twister assisted. The third one is AB is take the initiative to come to in front of the class to read the tongue twister script. With their own volition, students are willing to come to the front of the class without being ordered by the teacher. This shows that students have self-confidence to show their abilities in front of their friends. Marwan 2007 stated that lack of confidence is one of the primary causes in the students' anxiety. Furthermore, teaching and learning using tongue twister assisted could engage the student confidence in the speaking classroom. C. Answer the teacher's question related to the tongue twister. The student gave the positive response to the teacher question. The students dare to answer any question from the teacher related to learning English speaking. They show that students enjoy learning English speaking in tongue twister assisted. D. Worried about grammatical error or mispronounce. Almost of the students feel nervous when they try to speak English, although without using tongue twister technique, the students felt learning English was very difficult because English as foreign language was very difficult for them to speak. Besides that, speaking activities were the aspect that bothered the participant most about in the English class. For the students' emotional engagement in tongue twister technique. In addition, the author asked the students why they were felt so fear and nervous when they learned about English speaking using tongue twister technique. The students responded that they felt fear and nervous when they were tried to practice tongue twister in front of their friend. Harris et al. Beliefs about language learning also contribute to the students' tension and frustration in the classroom. In addition, the tongue twister assisted English speaking classroom can make the students feel enjoy the teaching and learning process. Chapter 5, Conclusion and Suggestion. Based on the finding and discussion, this chapter presents the conclusion of the wish and the suggestion for the teacher, students, and for the author. The result of the finding and discussion can be concluded as the following representation. Conclusion. Based on the finding of this research about student engagement in tongue twister assisted speaking classroom, it can be concluded that tongue twister is a potentially to engage student in speaking classroom. The feature of tongue twister engage student in the student's cognitive, student behavioral, and the student emotional engagement. The suggestion for English teacher, there are some recommendations in teaching English speaking. First, an English teacher must be creative when he or she transfers the knowledge to the students, so students can easily receive and understand the material. Second, it is necessary for the English teacher to give motivation to the student. Third, it will be better if English teacher find out the appropriate and interesting technique related to the material. Besides, to give contribution to English teachers, the teaching pronunciation using tongue twister technique is more interesting and bring in relaxation. For the student, learning pronunciation by using tongue twister makes students easily and fast to catch the lesson. Also, students should keep in mind that learning English is interesting. For the next authors, the author hopes that the next authors can prepare everything as good as possible in conducting the research and can do the follow-up of this research. On the other hand, it is hoped that the next authors can implement the method in teaching learning process by using the better way. I think that's enough this presentation from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.